What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Dragon Age video. I hesitated to do this one just because I personally kind of want to avoid spoilers, but with just under 2 months to go and honestly a need for content, I figured we might as well go over the recently released footage. The other day, IGN dropped their guided gameplay video for Dragon Age Veilguard. If you haven't checked it out and want to, the link is in the description below. But if you just want to have a quick breakdown of some things that I thought were notable, then keep on watching. As a fair disclaimer, if you're trying to go into the game completely blind with as little knowledge as possible, then you might want to skip this video. I don't think they go over anything too crazy, but it definitely does cross over into spoiler territory. With that said, let's continue on our way of list of things we learned from the new gameplay footage. The first thing we learned is Kunari now have insanely large foreheads. No, joking aside, the first thing we learned was that the lighthouse that will be our base of operations is actually inside of the Veil. They mentioned that it's courtesy of Solus as it used to be a former base of his during his rebellion years. Whether we stumble upon it or it's gifted to us, that is unknown. Personally, my first reaction to this was, it looks great. I mean, the environment is gorgeous. That was the case in Inquisition as well. Apparently, each companion will have their own little building within the Veil lighthouse, and each one will kind of have a distinctive design unique to each companion, which I also love. If I have one complaint, it would be that it looked a little bit empty. Now, given we assume this is pretty early on in the game, but also when you think about the fact that it's inside the Veil, and that in contrast to Inquisition, we're not running a whole organization. We're kind of a specialized group of individuals. So it does make sense that there aren't just people kind of randomly wandering around. Sticking with the lighthouse, we also learned that when a companion has a need to talk to you, the light outside of their respective building will be on. We also learned that companions have a preference and you can try to gain their approval through our dialogue choices, which isn't necessarily anything new, it's pretty standard, but it's always fun to decide whether you want to roleplay a specific type of rook or if you want to stick and try and get on the good side of your favorite companions, no matter what. Next, in the guided gameplay, we learned about the crossroads, which were introduced in the Trespasser DLC for Inquisition. Currently, the crossroads are under assault from the Elven Gods, so they say it's a lot different from the crossroads we experienced in that DLC. Within the crossroads, Solus has a pocket area that we'll be using that we can access through the Alluvion in the lighthouse. This was another area that Solus was using during his rebellion against the Elven Gods, and given how much they keep mentioning that, I assume it's going to be a consistent theme and we'll be revisiting that story to learn the truth of it all. In fact, they mention as much. They said that we can relive memories from Solus's time during the rebellion, and it will also give us insight into the Elven Gods' motivations. When it comes to new areas, you'll have to travel through the crossroads to get to each new area. However, after that, you'll be able to fast travel and skip the crossroads if you like. The developers do still recommend going through the crossroads because things can change over time. Another thing that I noticed is that our rook has a Lyrium dagger. It seems to be a key item of sorts. When you enter the crossroads, for example, they mentioned that it vibrates. Later in the gameplay footage, it's used to command companion actions, even if that companion is not in the party. I'm not exactly sure what it is or how it's related to the story, but it definitely seems like a key item, and perhaps it's similar to the Maker's Mark that our Inquisitor has. As the gameplay continues, we learn that we'll be working alongside the Grey Wardens in this particular quest and throughout the game, and I assume that goes the same for some other factions as well, if not all of them. They mentioned that factions will require our help in order to get their help in our final fight up against the Elven God. You'll be able to upgrade the shop in the Grey Warden area, and again, I assume this will be true for other locations in the game as well. I think this is a very familiar mechanic, building up the reputation with a certain faction, and then they show up to help you in the final battle. When it comes to building this rep specific to the Grey Warden area, show that you'll be able to pick up different side quests from the NPCs in the area. The developers mentioned that they want the side quests to be tied to the story and the fight against the Elven Gods or related to your companions in some way, rather than just be meaningless side quests. Moving on to the new combat and abilities that we saw from this gameplay, they played as a mage this time around, and from what I could see, the combat definitely seems a lot more aggressive. Now, I haven't played Inquisition in some time, to be fair, so maybe it's not too much of a change, but that was just my first impression from when they started fighting the Darkspawn. Now, could this be different from area to area or depending on your enemy? Possibly. But this specifically was an area where the Darkspawn and Blight were very strong. The combat was very fast paced, and they mentioned that combo and ability management is a core part of the gameplay. For example, if you know you're going to an area where you know there will be darkspawn or a certain type of enemy, you might want to put the skills that suit best for their weaknesses accordingly. Speaking of skills and abilities, they did mention that companions will have healing spells. They specifically mentioned that Nev has a healing kit, and they also mentioned that each mage companion has a healing ability that fits in with their character. Lastly, some lore notes on the Blight. They mentioned that the Blight has become more organic and alive, and this is possibly a side effect of the blighted elven gods coming back into the world. What it means for us is now the Blight is more dangerous than ever, and Darkspawn will be able to kind of modify themselves and make themselves stronger with this Blight, adding to that kind of organic nature of it. So these were the key things that I picked up on personally. I'm sure I missed a few things, and I'm sure others had different takeaways from the gameplay video. But what did you guys think? Did it leave you wanting more? Were you satisfied? Or do you think there were things that could have been done better? Until next time, I'll see you guys later.